Hello and welcome to another episode of Indie Thinking Live. Yes, live. Today we are talking why product value beats cultural moments in a recession. So, fear of a recession is consumers cutting back and brands pulling back. But the smartest indies know that panic isn't a strategy. When budgets tighten, research shows that B2B organizations maintaining or increasing marketing budgets during the recession had significantly higher sales during and after. What was the difference? They focused on product value, not borrowed relevance. Today, we're going to explore why brands like Apple, Dyson, and IKEA thrive in downturns by making their products the hero. We'll see how indie agencies can help clients pivot from trend chasing to benefit driven marketing that actually converts cautious consumers. We're joined today by Michael Miller, co founder and head of creative, and Chris Noble, co founder and head of operations at Consiglieri, a company that offers honest counsel for executives to create impact and efficiency through a modern approach to marketing. Let's welcome to the stage Miller. Chris, how you doing?
Good, Kyle. How's it going?
Excellent. Great. I'm glad you could join us today. Let's talk a bit about product values, shall we? So when 94% of U.S. advertisers are concerned about tariff impacts and 45% plan to cut ad budgets, yet decades of McGraw-Hill research shows that companies are maintaining marketing budgets during recessions. They see 275% higher sales growth. That's amazing. What's driving this massive disconnect between proven strategy and panic?
Well, I think there's a balance with kind of what the consumers are looking for and what the brands are trying to do. I think we've seen a bit of a shift in kind of what our clients are doing as far as trying to tighten down a lot of the brand narratives that they're expressing in their advertising, and really trying to focus more on things that are going to be relevant to the consumers.
Gotcha. Chris, anything to add?
No, I think Miller's right. I think those budget cuts are requiring not just a 10 or 20% peanut butter spread across the top kind of changes. It's requiring marketers to go in and decide, okay, what parts of what I'm trying to do make the most sense in that space. So nice to haves is unfair, but the things that aren't proving out success are the things that are obviously having to get cut. But I think the balance that Miller and I are seeing is the things that aren't proving success now seem to be the things that are getting cut, and that's going to have a longer term impact. And so the balance we're trying to talk to clients about is how do you find that space to continue to have a longer term strategy or a plan that's pointed out 12, 18, 24 months and building customer value there, while also obviously delivering what you need to deliver now as everybody's kind of living quarter to quarter through a recession.
Yep, and trying not to panic as well, right?
Yeah. I think everybody's panicking. Like, it's too late for that, but I think how do I rein in the panic into a space that I can act on?
Sure. So McKinsey research shows that marketing budgets typically decrease 11% during recessions. Well, yeah. With traditional channels,
I feel like marketing budgets are always decreasing.
Yeah, I would love to know when they're increasing. If somebody
they did a couple of years ago for about 5 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
So traditional channels are facing 20 to 30% cuts. So when agencies default to this kind of retreat playbook, which I can't stand, while brands like Apple and Dyson are actually growing market share by doubling down on product value, what specific business costs are agencies missing beyond just immediate revenue loss?
I mean, I think it comes down to the opportunity to grow brand reputation in that space. I mean, I think the brands that are offering actual value to consumers and are doing that through the marketing that they're putting out there is what's important. And I think it's important for agencies to think about where the actual value is coming through in that space. We're past the days where you can just show up at an event or show up as a sponsor or, have a 15-second billboard at the end of a, Super Bowl ad break and assume that that's going to connect to what the brands want to do. And I think in this space, agencies' opportunities to find engaging product value for consumers and for brands is where the space is going to be. Miller, you should talk more to it because I think this is part of what you were talking about in the op-ed that you wrote last month.
Well, when you're talking about corporate reputation, it's hard for a brand that has raised prices on consumers 6 times over the past 2 years, and then also does multiple rounds of layoffs to then try to pretend like they're relating to their customer, right? Like that's a difficult task. I think marketers can do kind of the hard work that needs to be done from a marketing standpoint, but the brand and the brands have to do the hard work from a like are our corporate values matching up with what's happening in with consumers' lives? Are we relating to our consumer not just with our marketing, but with the way we behave? And I think that's a hard lesson. And it has you can seem very disingenuous or at least inauthentic by trying to relate to consumers without addressing some of the issues that maybe your brand is going through as an organization. So I think it's a little bit two-sided, right? Like agencies can counsel on one side, but on the other side, really counseling, and working with kind of the action of the brand themselves.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to bring both sides together and get an understanding, don't you? I mean, it's really about that. Okay, you got to connect with your consumer somehow, and you can't do it just by throwing something against the wall, right?
Yeah, and also like you can't do it by just like pretending to have cultural relevance, right? Like, oh, we're gonna be, we're gonna hop on this trend that's happening in social. We're gonna do that. Like that rings really shallow with people when they're struggling to get by and struggling to figure out what's the how much are groceries costing, or how much is this costing, how much the gas costs, like the everyday costs and the struggles, as well as just kind of dealing with what's happening in the world right now. I think the brands need to be really cognizant of that and figure out kind of their point of view about how they want to show up for consumers. And I think that's that's really where the challenge is in marketing in this kind of environment.
Right. Well, I mean, being real to your brand has to be there, as you can say. You can't fake it because consumers are too smart for that.
Yeah. And I think I think the gap on that is that in the past, that's meant, things we support or, charities we give to or 1% give back, which are all still really important, elements. But I think this is now turned around where they want to point the spotlight at those positive things. And the reality is that the other things, like Miller's saying, that are impacting their brand value in a way that they not haven't thought about, but haven't had to pay attention to, I would say, as much as they have in the past. And that's only going to continue to accelerate, I would assume, through the next 5 years.
Right. Well, let's look at some examples. Like Apple, translates the camera tweaks into life improvement stories. Dyson turns their motor speeds into cleaner floors and fresher air, while IKEA sells design fixes as everyday life solutions. So why don't you walk us through the specific process for transforming functional benefits into compelling narratives that cautious consumers can actually buy?
Yeah, it's really, I think it can't just be dry product marketing, right? Like you can't say, oh, well, we're in a recession and our big, celebrity stories, our big, relational stories are not landing. So we really need to focus on product marketing and performance. And I think that it has to be a little bit more than that, because, the brands that do this well, that you just mentioned, they're not just connecting with the practicality of the product, but it's a deep understanding of the product benefit to the consumer. What is the small thing, the nuanced thing that really makes a difference, that can either provide me with, some kind of easier life or some kind of joy or solace from that product? And I think it's, really having that understanding of what those things are that make the product special, and doing it in such a way that you can relate those elements with some level of emotion. It doesn't have to be a, tug at the heartstrings kind of story, but just being real adds that level of relevance to what might be considered, more traditional product marketing.
Yeah, our Google client calls it turning features into feelings, and I love that framing around it and figuring out how to take that raw product piece, because it's not quite, Apple almost invented this when they invented the iPhone, where they would just show, UIs of the screen and people tapping on things. It's like, ooh, the internet works on my phone. It's but I mean, that invented that is a feature into a feeling. Holy crap, I don't have to learn whatever XML or whatever the hell it was 20 years ago. But it's like, I have the concept of that continues. And I think pushing into a space where you're making, like Miller was saying, an emotional connection to how the element of the product makes sense in my life is important. It's not just all about the brand's element around that, but you've got to have some kind of tangible reason to believe that points back to what's in the product that makes that benefit real.
Yeah, the wow factor just isn't going to cut it anymore. It has to be the practicality of it.
There's some, I mean, look, there's brands out there that can get around that, but I think in certainly categories where things cost $100, $200, $500, you can't just get by on we're a cool brand and let's be cool. Like I think those days are going to be tougher.
Yeah, well, especially again, in an economic downturn,
Sure.
you have to show how it benefits their life, otherwise they're not going to shell out the extra money. So,
absolutely.
So first, CMOs being told that their big agency by their big agency to pull back and wait it out. What should they be demanding instead? How can indie agencies position their resource constraints as actually better for developing authentic product value messaging?
I mean, I think in the smaller agency space, it's about understanding what that niche is that you're really good at and being able to come in and hone into that corner. I think brands, especially in this space, like as budgets are getting cut, what's getting cut is the massive, like, let's just think about everything all the way across the top and figure out, where we can scale back in that space. If you've got a real value proposition around, I'm excellent at TikTok video content, or I have an excellent relationship with connecting influencers into product, showing product value, or whatever it is, I think those elements honed in towards an actual ROI or an actual KPI on the backside of that work, that's where the indie agencies, I think, can come in and make a real impact with brands. I think you can always do that, but in a recession where they're looking to make broader cuts, having something you're really good at, having a real focus on what you can deliver, and then showing the value off the back of that is where the smaller agencies are going to stand out in that roster.
Yeah, I'd pile on to that, just the idea of like constantly iterating, constantly optimizing the work, doing as much content as you can for the budget, and budgets go a long way now with content, with the way content can be created. So you can if you find the right niche partners, you can spend a lot of time and effort on creating a massive amount of content to iterate, to optimize, to find the things that are working, that are having the impact quickly. Because I think it's that balance of like, we've got to plan for the long term, but the downward pressure is on what are we doing this quarter? How are we making an impact this quarter? What is and what are we going to do next quarter? What do we learn from this quarter that we're going to apply to next quarter? It's really been a push on speed to market and immediacy. And I think that idea of constantly iterating on content and efforts is really important.
Plus, indies can just do it better. Right?
I mean, yes. I mean, I assume that was
clearly.
Well, I mean, I think they have certainly in our space, we have the flexibility to actually be able to go in and do the thing we're going to say we're going to do. I won't say without looking at our bottom line, but with a more flexibility to make an investment around what we're doing on the bottom line. So things that we do even ourselves in our AI lab, or in other investments we'll make on clients, where it's like, hey, I don't need to get a giant scope of work together to do this one thing that I know is going to add a ton of value in long-term brand building for us with our clients. It's like, look, I'm happy to give you this thing. It took us a couple of hours to do, big bad giant agency probably would have wrote it all up as a, $50,000 scope, but like it took us 2 hours. Here you go. Like adding value, adding solutions, bringing, Miller talks about it, like bringing generosity to our clients. And I love that framing as well of like we're just generous people who are here to help each other get to something bigger. And I think in this kind of space, in the same way that brands are thinking about that and adding value for their customers, I think as an agency, we have to think about that and how we bring that generosity to our brands and our clients.
Yeah. Well, and that generosity can also lead to keeping the client rather than losing the client. So
yeah, it's not about giving stuff. It's not like, hey, we'll just keep giving you stuff away this isn't the Columbia Record House, 10 CDs for a penny.
But
but I think there is. I think the goodwill and the value that's built up in that way over time allows the client. We build that client trust at that point through the honesty and the value that we're bringing, and then that ends up rewarding itself. And because I'm not working quarter to quarter to quarter to satisfy investors or VC or whatever, I'm able to make that investment now, knowing it's going to pay off in Q3 26 or something like that.
Right. Right.
All
right. We got
a small. Well, I was just going to say, being a smaller shop too, and the relationships that we're able to create with our clients, we always know that our clients will make it good for us down the road, right? Like we never, we trust them. They put a level of trust in us, and we trust them that, if we need to have a conversation about like some level of that, like they're going to be open to it. So I think it's a nice balance kind of being in it from that side of it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We have some quick hits. So just quick hit questions here with quick hit answers. So, so what's the biggest lie agencies tell CMOs about recession marketing?
I think
quick hits, Miller. Quick hits.
All right, sorry. Quick hits. The world does not need to be entertained right now. Like, you don't need to be entertaining. Like, that's not like we don't have to go like, create some kind of crazy entertaining experience. Being practical and being relevant is a little bit more appropriate for what we're doing right now. Clarity and showing a little bit of care.
Gotcha, Chris.
No, I think Miller's right. I think we need to be entertained, but I'm not looking to Dyson or IKEA to do that for me. I'm going to go see the new, Paul Thomas Anderson movie this weekend. Like, that's what I'm looking for from an entertainment. I need brands to deliver like, I want them to do something that engages me and allows me to make a decision about whether I want to purchase that product or not and move forward there. And I think their level of, I think the other thing is that inside brands a lot, it has to always be, everything's growing, we're doing better, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I don't think that's the reality in the world. So like a little bit of the, leave the building, go out to lunch, kind of look around and bring a reality to that space versus a, fake sense of optimism or something to the world, I think is really important right now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What's one thing CMOs should stop buying from agencies immediately?
I mean, I think we hit on it earlier, but like stop buying we'll just put a tent up at Coachella and suddenly all the kids will think we're cool. Like if you're not adding value or rationale for being there, nobody's connecting that. They're taking your free backpack or koozie or whatever you're going to give away, and they're taking it home with them, and that's it. But that's not building any real brand value. If you're not engaging in an experiential or activation way with a real purpose and a real audience and a real point for being there, you're just like wallpaper.
Right. Don't just show up.
Yeah, that's right. I think that it goes along with chasing social trends too, right? The idea of, I'm trying to get social currency, so I'm going to chase the whatever fleeting thing it is. It just feels that feels inauthentic as well. That feels like you're just kind of like, trying to glom on the coattails of something that's happening in culture. So.
Yep, and always comes across as inauthentic when you do that. So,
yeah.
All right, last one. What's the next big shift in recession marketing that CMOs aren't prepared for?
I think it's pushing to the pieces that we were talking about earlier. I don't think CMOs have fully figured out how to turn product benefits into consumer feelings. I think we still think about marketing as brand marketing and product marketing, and there's this middle ground where those two have to start to connect in recession marketing, because at some point, because brands are going to be, especially large brands, are going to be quarter to quarter bottom line focused, you're going to lose that brand marketing. And if you haven't figured out how to infuse consumer feelings and elements into what you're doing from a product marketing standpoint, then you're just going to be out there doing bottom funnel creative. And that might make the numbers hit for that quarter, but you're going to erode the brand over time, because you're offering commodity value and not actual value.
Right. Miller?
And it's hard to, from the understanding the decisions that are being made around pricing, promotions, like product availability or product, getting consumers to be able to get access to the product. You are in a position to where loyalty is still important. It may not be the job you're trying to do this minute because you're trying to get to the end of the quarter and you're trying to figure out next quarter, but your ability to interact with consumers in really rough times, that goes a long way with how consumers believe and feel about your brand, and that loyalty will last. And I think that's the thing that I worry about, that we make short-term decisions based on recessions, based on cost, based on the inflation, based on whatever. And these short-term decision making kind of allows us the freedom to abandon any kind of long-term thinking. And I think that paying attention to the consumer while making these short-term decisions will inspire loyalty long-term, and it's going to be really important down the road.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Miller, Chris Noble from Consiglieri, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. Obviously, this will be up on our site and on LinkedIn, so we will have this. If you missed it, we will have it up there soon. So, thank you for joining us, and thanks for talking to us. And let's return to this again, because if we are in a downturn for a while, we're going to need some updates. So let's hope we're not.
When marketing budgets go up, just make sure you have us back too, because we'll be ready.
I'll have less hair, but we'll be ready.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle.